This time, the superintendent is going to update us on the reopening plan.
Thank you. Some of the things that were mentioned by our two speakers will be addressed in here. So the board has actually a front and back page which will be for the community as well starting tomorrow after tonight's presentation. This will be on the website. We're also putting together a quick one-page reopening plan at a glance, which has, forwarded a little more succinct thing that will be on the website, as well as tonight's presentation. So, trying to get as much information out there as we can. Our mission statement, I like to start every one of my presentations with that the Tri-City School District will provide a strong educational and social foundation to graduate all students college and career ready. That's what we're trying to do each and every day here in Troy, and we've done work that I'm really, really proud of. Our graduation rate last year jumped to 90%, as we've already celebrated at one of our board meetings. Thank you to everybody. I always say it's not just Mr. Mariano and his staff, but that's a pre-K-12 accomplishment, so I thank everybody that's involved, from faculty, staff, administration, students, parents, and the school community. But we make all of our decisions based on that mission statement and trying to do what's best for each and every student to reach their full potential and achieve success. So our reopening plan, again, this page is here, is based on the CDC guidance. It's based on the Department of Health guidance. We meet with them weekly. We met with the rest of the County Department of Health again today. Both speakers were correct. The New York State Department of Health has not given as direct guidance as they did last year, but we are still working through both the CDC and Rensselaer counties, and New York State Education Department did come out with a guide that was pretty much based on the CDC, which is what we used. So, I mean, almost every group from CDC to the American Pediatric Association, or I think it's American Association of Pediatrics, said kids need to be in school, and I couldn't agree more with that. There were some kids that were successful in a remote or hybrid setting, but in-person learning really is what our kids need. There were many kids that we are now working with to catch up that did much worse than they typically would do, and now have some gaps that we have to help them with. So getting everybody back in person is our main focus. It's what is needed for our students, for the majority of our students, and it's what this plan is based on. There is a full remote option. It's going to be provided by BOCES. It's only for students who present documentation of medical necessity. So there are some students in our district who have severe medical issues that put them at risk, and so we've been in contact with them. There was a survey that went out last week or the week before. We've been in contact with them. There's a couple in each school, and we're working with their doctors actually. And so for those that have that need, they'll be going to BOCES. They'll commit for the whole year. It will not be a Troy teacher, but they'll get the instruction they need remotely. For students who are officially quarantined by the Department of Health, so we will have cases this year. I don't think anyone disagrees that this virus has gone away. We will have cases, and as we have them, as the Department of Health officially quarantines students, either the positives or contacts, we will provide synchronous learning opportunities and meaningful contact with a certified teacher for those students who are officially quarantined. Right? It will not be the whole-scale situation like we had last year. Again, we did more last year, I think, than any district did around here as far as putting our instructional program together. And we're proud of that. And as we're talking to districts this year, I think even that third bullet is more than a lot of districts are offering. So we're proud of that, and our teachers have been fantastic to work with and to keep making decisions in the best interest of our kids, which we appreciate. The social emotional needs has been documented as well. We've talked about it here many times. We talked about it at our administrative meeting on Monday. We got all the administrators together for our back to school kind of training, all day training. And the social emotional needs that the students and families have right now, and Mr. McShane alluded to it a little bit when he was here. We will spend the first few days or weeks or whatever it is, making sure our students and families know we're here for them, help everybody get reacclimated, help everybody get re-engaged. As I've said before, and Mr. McShane said, there's some kids that haven't been in a school building since March 2020. So it's going to take a little while to get used to the school day again, to get used to the expectations. And so we will make that a priority to help our students and our families get reacclimated to the things we're having. Our health and safety parts of our plan, so masks will be required. We had that decision, I think 2 weeks ago, maybe even more, but that is now, the new governor, Governor Hochul, has required that in all school buildings for all individuals. So, to our second speaker, that's beyond our control at this point. That became a mandate from the governor that masks have to be worn inside the buildings by everybody, students and staff, visitors, whoever's in the building at all times. Mask breaks with social distances will be provided. So we did talk to the administrators. We talked to them once or twice a week as well. We had a meeting this morning to talk about how those mask breaks will be divided depending on how many kids are in the class, but being strategic about making sure that any mask breaks also come with some social distancing, so we're not putting anybody at risk. CDC has actually recommended 3 feet of social distancing now. It's changed from 6 between students, and they also say when and where possible. So again, the CDC's guidance is when they talk about when and where possible, that they do not want that social distancing or any social distancing protocols to keep us from bringing all of our kids back to school, and that's where we are focused as well. So we can easily do 3 feet of social distancing. Again, in some of the classes that have lower enrollments, we will spread them out even more than that and probably be close to the 6 like we were last year. But we will follow that mandate where we can. There'll be always deep cleaning of all the spaces. That'll happen every night. The high touch areas will be cleaned throughout the day, just like we did all throughout last year. Our maintenance and custodial staff did a fantastic job, and they're working super hard this summer to get the rooms ready. And we've still got about a week left for them to keep that rolling. Students and staff will have access to hand sanitizers. The district purchased that last year. We'll do the same again this year. It'll be in every classroom, it'll be in the cafeteria, it'll be throughout the building, in the offices, and those kind of things. So it'll be readily available for students and staff. And signage will be displayed throughout the school, promoting general hygiene, hand washing, using hand sanitizers, reminding the students and staff the proper way to do all that to keep people safe. Our school lunch program, so students in pre-K through 1 right now, we're going to have those eat in the classroom. We had everybody eating in the classroom last year at the elementary level. And some of the teachers were speaking to their principals and said it really worked well for the younger kids. So we're going to try that at least at the start of the school year. That pre-kindergarten through grade 1 will be served in the classroom. Students in 2 through 12 will go to the cafeteria. They will have assigned seating so that we can keep track of who's sitting next to whom. In case contact tracing is needed, in case the DOH is asking for that information. Students will be allowed to remove their mask only once they're seated and they begin eating. And then, in talking to the principals, lunch is a half hour for the kids, but almost all of them are finished eating within that first 15 minutes. So as soon as they're done eating, the students will be reminded to put their masks back on. And they'll be reminded to follow all safety protocols while they're in the cafeteria including not sharing food or drinks and things like that. Transportation, this one's also a little different from last year. Remember last year it was prescribed pretty specifically from the DOH saying we could only fill the buses up a third, which was an issue. This year that's not a requirement, so the buses will be full to capacity and have to be if we're going to bring all of our students back. Masks will be required at all times on the bus. There will also be assigned seating, like I just said for the cafeteria, there will be assigned seating on the bus. So students will be, again, told where to sit, and that'll help with, again, contact tracing if and when needed. Windows and roof hatches will be open, weather permitting. That adds extra ventilation inside the bus, which we talked to DOH about this morning, and they were really recommending that. And just like the classroom, daily cleaning and disinfecting, as well as cleaning of high-touch surfaces after each run. We don't have our own buses, as most people know, I think here. We contract out with Durham, but they are certainly on board with all of our health and safety protocols. At the high school, it was pretty successful last year. I think it was, we call it a hit with almost everybody. CDTA provided our high school transportation last year instead of Durham, and we're going to do that again this year, and we're going to actually expand it to a couple of neighborhoods that they couldn't get to last year. Masks will be required, and students will also be required to follow the CDTA's health and safety protocol. Testing protocols, contact tracing. The first bullet is huge. All students showing any symptoms, signs and symptoms of illness should be kept home from school. You know, there was a time a few years ago, and when I was growing up, you know, you were told to tough it out, get to school, you know, get to work. That is not the case anymore, and so we'll be asking for parents' cooperation with that. We ask our staff to cooperate with that. If you're feeling any symptoms of any illness, especially any of the symptoms listed for COVID, then you stay home from work, you stay home from school. This second bullet, it's an interesting one, and I think it's going to help us this year with some of the students who got quarantined and had to stay home waiting for test results. So if a student does show symptoms of illness while at school, we will now have the capacity. Now it's not going to happen until probably the end of September because we're waiting for the testing machines to come in. Rensselaer County got some federal money just like school districts did, and they're going to purchase a testing machine for each of the schools in Rensselaer County. And it's what we call COVID point of care testing. So if a student goes down to the nurse with symptoms of COVID, or symptoms that could be related to COVID, our nurses will be trained to give it's a rapid test, but it's not the old rapid test with the nasal swab. It's a different kind, but they'll have a video and they'll get trained on it. I don't know too much about it, other than I'm told it's 15 minutes before the results come in. So we'll know immediately whether those symptoms really were COVID related or not. If it comes back negative, students will be allowed to return as soon as their symptoms clear up and they're well enough to do it. If they're positive, then we'll notify Rensselaer County and follow all their recommendations for quarantining and contact tracing. That will obviously only be given with parent permission. So again, we're probably a month out before those machines are in, but during that time, we'll get permission slips out to parents, and I assume parents will want to do that. Remember, last year the rule was if you had any of those symptoms, you had to go home and you had to stay home for 10 days unless you went somewhere else and got a negative test. So now that test can happen right in your child's nurse's office and here at school. I think it's a real benefit and a convenience that I think most parents will appreciate, but it will require parent permission. Athletics, activities, after-school programs, so they're going to resume. We're trying to have as normal a school year as we can. Athletics have already started, our fall sports, football, volleyball, cheerleading, and soccer, golf, cross country. Two of them are listed as high-risk sports. Those are football and volleyball. Volleyball because it's indoors mainly. The after-school programs, I know some people are interested in a starting date for that. So we're looking at probably early October for our after-school programs at all of our elementaries. But we will be resuming all of the regular clubs and activities and athletics. All the students and staff must wear masks while indoors or on school buses and maintain appropriate social distance to the extent practical. You know, you're playing soccer and you're obviously at times going to be right next to your opponent, but you know, on the sidelines and before and after games and things like that, the coaches are already aware to keep the protocols that we have in place during the school day. The athletes who play high-risk sports will be tested, so that's part of the CDC guidance as well. We will encourage, Mr. Reinisch and I are going to have a meeting with the coaches. I've already talked to the coaches a couple of different times of, again, football and volleyball. We'll be meeting with the parents of those sports athletes, and we'll discuss this with them. We're going to encourage them to get vaccinated. Some districts are actually requiring vaccinations to participate in high-risk sports. We're going to encourage it, but the people who are not vaccinated, well, actually all the athletes will also be tested because there are some vaccinated people who are breaking through and having cases. So the high-risk athletes will be tested once a week. Pretty standard. Most of the districts are doing that. I was on a meeting with all the suburban council superintendents on Monday, and everybody is testing once a week, which we will do as well. And again, that one will also have parent permission to do it. But if you're not going to get vaccinated or give permission for testing, that will be the time your son or daughter will not be able to play the high-risk sport. So I'm going to talk to the parents of those sports again next week. And visitors and building use requests. So again, we're trying to get back to as normal school year as we can. We are going to welcome visitors and volunteers back into our schools, but they will need to follow all of our protocols. They also will be screened on the way in. So we have a new Raptor system that we've had now about a year and a half. The questions that everybody had to answer last year are built into those systems. You know, do you have any symptoms? Have you been around anybody that's tested positive? All of those things. So they'll have to get screened answering those, and they'll obviously have to wear a mask to enter, and they'll keep the mask on the entire time. We'll also have our building use requests. We have outside groups that, before COVID, would use our buildings for anywhere from the gyms to the weight rooms to the swimming pools, the fields, and other places. So those outside groups have started requesting again, and we're going to allow them back in, but again, they need to follow all of our safety protocols. I said before, this plan is based on guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Department of Health, and the New York State Education Department. The second bullet's important. It's subject to change. I mean, the first speaker talked about the trends that are going on. If and when the situation gets to a point where Governor Hochul or the New York State Department of Health, I mean, Governor Hochul came out and again made the mask mandate in her first or second day on the job, and she's also been saying more to come. I mean, one of the things that she said recently, and I think the legislature is supposed to act on this week or next, is the open meetings law. And we were allowed to have remote meetings for a while. The talk is that she may bring that back for certain meetings. I don't know if school boards will be in that mix, but she is talking about allowing that for certain meetings. But depending on the situations, depending on the trend of COVID positives and all those situations, and depending on what the governor and the New York State Department of Health end up doing, they've also talked a little bit about vaccinations and testing of faculty. So again, if that comes from the state, then we will have no choice but to participate and apply. The last bullet is the most important one to me. We are really, really excited. We've had a summer of planning for this year, and we're excited for the school year and can't wait to see our students and staff. Ms. Rounds in the good news talked about the new teacher orientation. So Dr. Watson met with them yesterday, and I got to meet with them this morning. It's just a great morning to be able to interact with them. 80 something, I think it's a record for us how many are in that auditorium as new teachers right now, teachers and TAs. But interacting with each and every one and, you know, trying to get to know them, it really makes you excited for the school year, and they're excited, and so are we. So it's going to be a great year. It's not going to be without our challenges, but we proved last year that this school community can handle anything when we're doing it together, and we are going to do it again this year.